my passion is doing things for others. That's what keeps me going. That's what allows me to go to sleep, seeing people smile. I remember I used to ask my parents all the time, "Did you smile today? At least once?" Something as simple as that. Because we don't necessarily realize what all the stuff we have going on. For one, it's temporary. It's always going to come to an end, depending on what that is. It may be stressful in that moment and really hard to see, but eventually it dies down and you get somewhat of a norm that you used to have. But I think a lot of that is hard, especially if you're a young child right now. So if you're a young caretaker, because I'm talking to you, where's the camera? We're right here. So you young caretakers out there doing everything for your community, you have to live your life too. Because I know you're raising your siblings, you're taking care of your parents, you're taking care of yourselves. And that is a lot of baggage, especially if you're around 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I understand what that's like because I've been in that situation before. And you are not alone. You always have somebody, and it's only going to make you stronger. So I wanted to talk and spit that to them really quickly.
And you know what? I think that's another good question we can pose or issue that we can bring up as well that I've noticed. And when I say black people, I'm talking about my black family, right? Because I got a black family. So
I got one too.
I think I can talk about my family and be like, this is what I've noticed, right? And I'm sure there's other black families that have experienced the same thing, right? There's a general culture out there that I think we can agree about. Now, it may vary in degree, but I think the nature of it is still the same, if you get what I mean. And I think a lot of our young black males and females especially do have additional responsibilities in the household to take care of their little siblings, right? And if they're old enough to get a job and help pay some bills. I mean, I got friends that tell me all the time, I'm 19, 20 years old, and my mom's still taking my paycheck. Or I'm 22 when I still live at home, and my paycheck is gone. Now I'll kick in on the rent, but when the whole check is gone, what I got left at that point? Because there needs to be groceries in the house, or mom's late, behind on the electricity bill or the Wi-Fi bill,
or you're a parent.
Yeah, or you're a parent too, living in the household with your parent, and all your money is going. So I get it. Right, I understand that you have to have those responsibilities and pay, but I feel like in our community, at least, we put those responsibilities on our young people at too early of an age, in my opinion. I mean, 17, 16 years old, your whole check shouldn't be going to your mom and dad, right? If you working, I commend you on that you're able to keep up with your studies in high school and have a job. You should be able to go to the mall with your friends, post COVID-19, of course. Go to the mall with your friends and buy yourself a nice pair of shoes with your paycheck. Or hopefully you putting some of that money to the side for college, but you should be able to do what you want to do with that money at that age.
Yeah, that you earned. For one, yeah.
And I'm not trying to shame parents though, right? I always have to look at things holistically, right? And I don't want to shame parents who have to be in that position where they have to depend on their child supplementing the income, right? I understand that struggle. So as a community, as elected officials, how can we all come together and figure out how to build networks and cushions for families who are in those types of situations, where it's not setting them up to be dependent on government funding, but to be empowered and to uplift them, to get to a place where they're financially stable, right? Because on one hand, I feel like we come in from the government standpoint and say, well, we're just going to give people rent assistance and we're going to give people SNAP benefits. But the second you make above that threshold of income, you're no longer eligible for those benefits anymore. So where's the incentive for a single mother to go back to school and get her higher paying jobs if that means she's going to lose her rental assistance and her SNAP benefits? I mean, I certainly wouldn't, right? Being a logical person, if I'm getting rent subsidies and I'm getting food, why would I go to a higher paying job knowing that I'm going to lose those benefits as soon as I change my tax bracket?
And this ties into stimulus, and stimulus benefits that everyone receives. So I am a huge advocate for based income. That was something I was fighting for in Apple Valley, based income. And some of the feedback I heard.
And that's a guaranteed base income?
That's a guaranteed based income.
Okay.
Which means, of course you have to have some type of threshold for cap, but I think for the city of Apple Valley, I was thinking maybe like a little under 50 a year.
And that's per family, a family household
That's
income?
a family household income.
Okay.
And, whatever the amount, different cities have different budgets.
Yep.
So whatever the amount might be appropriate for that city may not work in another city.
Right.
But the reason I got the idea is because I heard about Stockton, California, which is a city people don't talk about. But the mayor of Stockton had some difficult times because they had to file for bankruptcy. And then he implemented a guaranteed based income model, and now they're one of the top cities in California. And we know how big California is. So you look like you're thinking over there.
I am thinking because universal income
different.
or guaranteed base income. I'll be specific.
Yeah,
Guaranteed base income is something that I wasn't completely sold on. I think we're trying to pilot a program like that in St. Paul right now.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the mayor has implemented something like that utilizing CARES funds as kind of like the testing funding source, I guess you can say, to see if this is going to work. So I think he has like less than maybe 400 families or something. I forget the details, but there's a small number of families. We're going to give them a base income and kind of see what happens. I think it could work depending on the area that you live in, right? I don't know the demographics of, you said it was Stockton, California. I don't know the demographics of Stockton, California, right? But I'm going to assume that it's not that big of a city.
It's bigger than Apple Valley.
It's bigger than that. Okay.
Yeah, I think they had about between 80 to 100,000.
80 to 100,000?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do some more research on that.
Yeah,
my only reservation... My only reservation with this approach, right, is that are we expecting that the funds come from a general operating fund in the city, which means property taxes, right, and other revenue streams are going to pay for that program, in which people who may not be eligible for those services are paying for other residents to have that service and they're not eligible for it. I think that would be my only reservation of how do you address that when it arises, because it will, right? It'll come up at town hall meetings and city hall meetings that, hey, I'm paying X amount of dollars in property taxes and this is going to a program that I'm not even eligible for.
Yep. Yeah, and you're going to have pushback and kickback from anything. I would say to that, one of the things that I put in my guaranteed base income plan was it would be match based. So we utilize residents who are willing, voluntary residents, to donate to a fund like that. We want the city to put in a certain amount. We want schools and businesses to put in a certain amount. So it's not just one-sided coming from one direct area. It's like, how could we get people to voluntarily put things up for this specific need and say that we have issues because the people who live in our city don't have the resources, monetary or non-monetary, to live here. And I think that's kind of how I viewed it. So I was like, if everyone, had the choice to, you don't have to, but for people who would like to, they could.
I mean, I think in a utopia, in a utopian society, like that will work. Right, people would just be, if they got extra money, they would be like, "Here, just take this. Here's $10,000. I got enough."
Well, I'm not saying that. That's completely different. Let me be clear about that. Yeah, we're not just throwing funds out.
Right.
And I think that's because I see what you're getting at, and this is the business side of it. The business side is we want to even exchange. We don't want to just put money into a community, and that's how city stuff work too. It works just like that. It's a business. If we put this program out for benefits, how many people are actually going to utilize it for things they need to? How many people are going to utilize it for, things that will really help them within their families? And that's what I loved about Stockton. They found a way to do that because a lot of it went towards housing expenses, food expenses. There was some clothing costs that they had. And then a lot of it was something that I feel is underrated but overrated at the same time, which is medical bills and insurance. So we don't think about how many people owe companies based on going to the dentist, going to the doctor, car insurance, and things like that. that impacts credit. But I don't want to go too far off there because I know we were here.
Because I know we could talk about this this specific policy or
that's
platform item.
That's different
for hours. Because I mean, and it's relevant though because I think even nationally people are pushing for more universal income, universal guaranteed income. They're pushing for universal health care, right? So this conversation is relevant because it's happening on the national level. And I think some of these cities are trying to implement something to say, hey, this is what we've done, it could work. I still have my reservations about a guaranteed base income because I also want to make sure that we are incentivizing people to get an education or to become entrepreneurs, to open up businesses, to help stimulate the workforce that we have and not just rely on the income that they're going to get, the base income they're going to get to meet their bare minimum needs. So I guess I'm more in the position of like, I want to empower people. So I'm fine with doing that type of approach if it's going to be limited, right? For 6 months, if you're down on your luck, you lost your job, you have no other options. All right, for 6 months, we'll give you X amount of dollars to get you on your feet. But you need to show us that you're actively looking for a job or you're trying to enroll in school or you're going to use some of these funds to put aside to start a small business or something. And then we'll assist you to get loans and things of that sort to help you, stimulate that. But it's like, I don't want to just give people money and expect them to do the right thing with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. But 9 times out of 10, if it's going to the people who need it, then they would use it for that purpose. And I think because one of the things I say, implement it now. Let's work out the logistics later on the back end. Because and the reason I say that is because, of course, like these are real conversations that roundtable board meetings have.
Oh yeah,
if we
that's why I say
this,
it's relevant.
It's all very relevant.
Yeah,
it's all very relevant. But one thing I'm starting to learn is, for example, if I was to, let's just say, I gave you an iPhone and you sold it. Once it leave my hands and go to you, that's on you.
No, you don't care what I do with it.
I don't care what you do with it, but I would love for you to make phone calls. I would love for you to use it. I would love for you to do it to, how I feel is best. But if that was the case, I should not have necessarily given it to you. I should have just kept it.
So you don't want any strings attached, basically. You're like, hey, we give you this money. We expect you to do X, Y, and Z with it. But if you don't, that's not up to us. Our job is to give it to you, to give you the resource, to give you the opportunity to do something positive with it. If you don't, that's on you.
Well, if they don't, they lose it.
Okay. All right. So there is that
there, and that's why I said, a lot of the logistics.
I can buy into that then.
Yeah. So I was like, we could work out logistics on the back end, but as far as just getting it out, and I think this is so important, like surveying, reaching out to the community, and saying, what do you feel is best? I know Apple Valley is a little bit different. When I had some surveys, some people wrote on my surveys, and I love their honesty. I live here because I could afford to. And I remember thinking to myself, well, there's some people who can't afford to who live here. And I was like, I'm somewhat in that position,
Right.
It's like I could, but the reality is I'm 25, I'm young too, trying to figure things out, my fiance and I. So for us who was like, yeah, this is a place we want to live. This is a place we want to do these things in, but if we don't have additional support in order for us to stay, then we'll move into cheaper areas.